Wolf Punch.
I always get called an idiot.
It's mostly Yasmin, so he's kind of a bully.
Yeah.
No, I'm nice. Come on.
You're a nice guy, Yasmin.
I'm nice. Everyone believed me because I said so. Nice. It's Dire Wolf Punch.
Yeah, it is.
How's it
A
going?
new week, a new exciting episode to talk about.
Yeah.
The Last of the Starks.
Is that the name of it?
That is, I don't know. That was a strange name choice, but I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
This week we've got me, Yezin, and then
Kyle.
Michael.
I'm Dan.
you are Dan.
Yeah.
Woo!
And we're a podcast. Let's talk about this episode, which is getting like a lot of negative buzz.
Almost as much as last episode,
Almost
which I
as
think
much.
is like way worse.
I'm gonna be honest. Last night I thought was a good episode. I'm disagreeing with a lot of people, but this is one where I thought this is what you do. This is how to do your show.
Like, part of me was like, I guess at this point my bar has just been lowered, I think. Because after the last episode, I was like, oh no, they ruined Game of Thrones. But then, after I sat with it for a while, I'm like, oh, this is where the show is. I can't change it. So let's just see how it goes going forward. So now anything that kind of happens, I guess I just have lower expectations. So I was fine with this episode. And there was one bit with Sansa that I really liked. So I'm excited for the repercussions of that. We'll get into later.
So yeah, I and for the record, we are going to spoil the episode. You should have watched it by now, and I'm sure you did. But I didn't like last week's episode. But after sitting with it and then rewatching it at the end of the week with my mom, with lowered expectations, it's like okay, you're fine, whatever. There are a lot of bad things about it, but okay, there are a lot of things I can forgive also.
So is that what this whole season is now? Is just
forgiving
lowered expectations,
But
that
no.
Mad TV?
I feel like they're already pretty low after season 7.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what. Maybe I think that last night's episode was genuinely good because it's doing something that I haven't felt the show doing for a long time. And you guys can correct me. When's the last time you felt the show wasn't pandering to you and giving you real conflicts that can actually go somewhere very serious that are not meant to make you happy?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the first things that I wanted to talk about, especially because Michael sent us that article from the Mary
Sue, yeah.
which I don't really read a lot, but from what I gathered, I'm like, oh, they seem to want everything out of the show that I don't. Where it was when we watched last episode and you said, well, it's better upon rewatch, or to me, that episode, even if Theon was the one that killed the Night King, I'd be like, I didn't like this episode. It was just so many characters getting, the writers were talking afterwards of well, Jorah died exactly the way that we feel like he would want to. And everyone gets their, special...
And Lyanna Mormont got to kill a giant.
Yeah.
She's one of the smallest characters. Thought it'd be nice if she got to kill one of the biggest. I'm
yeah, she was going to be a one-scene character, but the internet loved her, so we had her kill a giant. And I'm like, okay, that sucks. Because then I start to think, everyone died exactly the way they wanted to. What would be a good, swan song for them? And I'm like, I liked Rob more than any of these people, and he died right after seeing his pregnant wife get stabbed a bunch of times. The
you got to live your dream and be a wolf.
Yeah, he did. He got to go out in a blaze of glory. It's great. And the Viper was an incredibly popular character who got to get his fucking teeth punched out, eyes gouged out, his head fucking crushed.
Yeah.
And the love of his life is watching and screaming in terror. That's such an awesome moment.
That's the scene that got me to watch the show.
Yeah. Oh, I rewatched that so many times.
There's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I know. But the point is this show never used to be about giving the audience what it wants. This used to be the show where horrible things fucking happen to good people, and then it's not just bloodlust. There are repercussions for it. There's a huge fallout. And now some of the things that people are complaining about in this episode, there's more to it than that, but I'm watching Game of Thrones and complaining that bad things happen to good people is kind of like watching Jackass and complaining that people behave like jackasses. It's like that's what this show is supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Dan, you have the most negative opinion on this episode.
Oh my god.
So let's start.
There's actually some scenes in this that like I really enjoy and does feel like OG Thrones, but then there's a lot of shit that's like, this is kind of just redundant and fan servicey in the way, well, more fan fiction even than anything else. And a lot of the stuff towards the end, like, I like the general direction things are moving, but the way they're doing to get there, I think is fucking terrible.
Yeah, I can definitely
very
see that.
poorly done. Character motivation just kind of feel like they're out the fucking window. Things are happening just for like big, stupid, on the nose moments. Just so it's like, oh, now this character will be upset about this. When it's like, why would they do that? Like
what?
the whole thing with Miss Andy. I fucking hate literally everything about that goddamn setup and the scene for that happening. It's so fucking stupid. Even before that, the whole thing with Euron Greyjoy. I mean, we're in full spoiler territory, and I feel like this is. I mean, so fuck it. Let's just jump into the end. We can go back from there and work from it.
Yeah.
But holy shit! So like, I don't even hate the idea of like the surprise attack, but it's like now we have these scorpions that can just shoot the dragons out of the sky, and it's like that's an interesting concept because now Dany isn't all super powerful and can kill anything. Even though it's like all Euron fucking does is just sneak attack people and then kill them and then run away and not really do much else anything after that. And why the fuck did he know to steal Miss Andy? Why do we fucking care that Miss Andy is kidnapped? Why the fuck are they making a show of an execution for Dany outside of just to solely find a convenient way to push her character towards being like, ooh, I'm angry, now I'm going to kill the innocent civilians surrounding Cersei so it can raise tension with everyone else being like, oh, maybe Dany is kind of a mad queen after all.
Honestly, like, I hear what you're saying, and I think I said something when we were watching the episode, was like, I don't have any problem with them, like, killing Miss Andy, but she, like, should have died on the ship attack.
Yeah.
It's just really goofy that, like, they captured her.
Yeah, like
there's so much stuff about that scene that I'm just like watching, like the big standoff with like Cersei and then like Tyrion and then Grey Worm and Dany there, and I'm just like, this is fucking stupid.
Like,
there's no reason they should be there in person if this is like one. They don't even have a bargaining chip anymore with the dragons because they just got shot out of the sky immediately by a couple of fucking ships, which are also moving and swaying and shouldn't be able to shoot. Okay, that's technical nitpicking.
Yeah.
But literally, you have all your forces there. It seemed like if this would have happened in like. God damn it, I don't want to keep saying OG Game of Thrones, but it's like, there's no reason Cersei just should have been like, fuck you, like, pulled her cunt out, started pissing, and then just killed everyone. Like, shot the fucking scorpions, killed the dragon immediately, and then just rained everyone else down with arrows. Like, what are they going to do? Literally nothing.
I was honestly, like, thinking,
there's literally no reason why that shouldn't have happened.
Like, I thought she was going to, like, when Tyrion was, like, trying to, like, get her to, like, change her mind, like, I was like, she's, like, going to shoot him with an arrow. Like,
Yeah.
I was hoping for that to happen. It would be a shit ending for that character, but, I mean, that's Game of Thrones. And I was like, nope.
And
it's just kind of...
So, these logistic things aren't the things that I really focus on. And I actually do think there's a reason why Cersei didn't do any of those things. I think Cersei has a very specific plan. And I'll just say, I think Cersei knows that she's going to lose. I think Cersei knows that she's going to lose. And I think her plan is actually to get Dany to destroy herself. I think that's what... I think that... Again, this is just me predicting. I think that she miscarried already. There is no baby between her and Jaime that she's trying to pass off as Euron. There is no baby. She miscarried. She knows that there is no future for her. She knows that she believes that the witch's prophecy is inevitable. So her plan is to get Dany to destroy her reputation and her credibility and her relationships in the process of taking King's Landing.
Yeah.
That's what I think is the reason for that. But that's all aside. Like, I guess I've seen people complain about like Miss Sandy being taken and why that happened. That's fair. I guess I can see a reason for. It depends. Like, do they know that Miss Sandy is like Dany's?
I can
confidant?
suspend disbelief on that. Just 'cause, like, people start learning reputations of like who's running with who.
Right, like maybe they're like, oh well, that's her main gal is this Missandei lady.
Sure, but the idea of like them capturing her through all that like
Chaos.
and no one noticing any of those ships advancing to capture her, I don't know.
Well, I think they were like hiding behind Dragonstone. Definitely, you would want to scout.
Yeah,
but
it just seemed a little.
You need like a dragon or something for that though,
Yeah,
flying around.
It just seemed really goofy
Yeah.
to me. But you know, whatever.
This shouldn't be a whatever kind of thing though.
No,
I mean,
it shouldn't.
This
show
is
used
like
to put a lot
just
more time
entering
into
into
it.
like almost borderline schlock in that fucking scene for me.
I just that's just not the thing that I focus on too much. That's for me. That's like battle strategy things where I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice if the battle strategy made more sense on this show, but like.
This is more than that. This is character motivations in the moment, though, and power balances. Like,
Well, what character motivations? Like
all the shit for what came back to like with Missandei, like having her up there. It's like, yeah, it's understandable. Like, Grey Worm and like Dany would be so upset, but like, why would Cersei do that? Again, knowing her how to make a whole big show of that, and if it does come true that like Cersei's goal is to drive Dany insane and like kind of like turn her into like a mad queen, then it doesn't make sense in the context of like now how much power she has in relation to like Daenerys and all that.
Yeah,
shit.
she really probably could have just killed Daenerys right there and then. That is kind of a hard thing to get past.
Maybe, but I think
I thought they were going to kill the
I think
dragon
that
in
I think
scene.
that she believes in the witch's prophecy. I think she thinks that no matter what she does, the younger, more beautiful queen is coming to get her. I think that's where she's at right now, because I think she lost her baby.
Well, it would be nice to get that through the character, though. And honestly, the only way I'm getting this now is from you saying that theory.
Maybe I think we kind of got it in the end when Tyrion was talking to her, and then he said like, "There's no reason for your baby to die," and she just kind of had like a look.
Yeah.
I think we are going to get it next week, but I could be wrong about that.
Because that was one thing. I hated that scene, but I did like the conversation that between Tyrion and Cersei. I liked like what he was saying to her, and I thought that was
That was a good interaction between
But like
the two.
the stuff around it wasn't.
Everything
wasn't
else
good.
about that was just kind of like brought me back to the whole like, oh, let's bring a White Walker down from the north to show Cersei kind of thing. It's just like suddenly this doesn't make sense to me in my mind, and I'm just sitting there like, this is fucking goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I will admit, like
The fucking mountain behind him, the big zombie goddamn fucking axeman cutting off her head and it just falling down. Just like,
I will
fuck
admit that
you.
the optics of that scene were definitely kind of ridiculous. Like in season 7, there's a scene where, there's goofy things about the White Walker plot or the White Walker dragon pit plot, right?
Yeah.
But like in that scene when Daenerys parked all of her forces outside and it was like a huge group and like everyone was coming together, that scene felt very like, okay, I get it. Like, you know what I mean? That scene, but like there was something a little goofy about the Daenerys having like maybe like 100 at the most unsullied with her.
Yeah.
Just there at the city. Like, and Cersei you don't know what's behind those walls. I mean, I guess she could scout with the dragon, but
Just not for ships.
yeah. Well, I mean, they were hiding behind Dragonstone, and as soon as she was near, these are things that don't really bother me a ton.
On their own, they wouldn't bother me as much, but it seems like they're just compounding and piling up now. And that's really what's just like irking me in this whole thing.
I hear what you're saying, and I don't really disagree with you. It's just I had these thoughts and feelings like with last week's episode, and I think that like there was just more
and last
things.
season as a
And
whole.
last season as a whole, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I think
Ugh.
like there are things that like I really liked that felt like we were saying original Game of Thrones, but again like character motivations are just kind of sacrificed. Like the thing I liked the most that I'm most excited for going forward is like the repercussions of Sansa telling Tyrion about Jon. But the problem is, Jon shouldn't have opened his mouth in the first place. Like, that makes no sense.
Well, there's one thing we've
for his
learned so
character at
far.
all.
John is not that fucking smart.
He's
so.
not, but
No, Jon
he's
is
like
not
that,
good at it.
like, on any level. doesn't make any sense. Even like, oh, but they're my family. It's like, okay, well, tell them later.
I think
like you don't need to tell them
I think
right
it makes,
now.
I think stuff like that, like, it makes sense. It's just frustrating because we don't agree with. And that's actually what I really like about last night's episode.
No,
is people doing things I don't want them to do.
Yeah. Well,
like Jamie going back to Cersei is like, no, don't do it. But he does it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jon telling Arya and Sansa, it's like, don't do it, but he does it. Like stuff like that, because it's like, I believe this character would do this thing? Yeah, I do.
I don't know if I believe Jon would.
Oh, I absolutely believe Jon would. I kind of would have been frustrated if he didn't, because it just seems like so in his character. Also, I just fully expected him to.
I could have imagined a scenario where he didn't, but I don't know. I think that.
Just imagine him looking even more broody about stuff. Like, okay, tell him this is so frustrating.
Well, I guess like it does make sense in the context. Like after like you brought up earlier, Yezin, when we were talking about how Jon's clearly not comfortable with the incestual relationship, so I think he's trying to sabotage it at this point.
I don't know if he's trying to sabotage it, but like, I mean, if he feels like that, I don't think he is. I don't know. I guess there are things that I think are great that are happening, and they mainly revolve around characters doing things that creates drama and tension between named main characters. That, unlike, again, I guess probably something we all agree, one of our benchmarks for bad writing is the season 7 Winterfell plot, where like Arya and Sansa kind of just like talked about cutting off each other's faces and stuff, but then nothing happened. Here you get like this like real impending sense of dread that something actually will happen. And like, that's actually pretty fun to watch. Also, I guess I'll say that I think that a lot of what maybe, I think I've said it. Like, that's what the thing that I'm liking about this past episode is that like I feel like things are actually happening that have consequence.
Well, that's the thing that I guess is so frustrating for me, because like the general direction that they're moving towards with like the whole climax and everything, like I really love the whole discord they're sowing between like Jon and Dany. That's really interesting. And like I like how that now like Cersei actually is like kind of a threat, instead of just kind of like, well, she's just going to hold up in the castle and use like the people as like a human shield or something. Like there actually feels like now there's like real stakes in it, and like, you know, anyone can lose in any way. It's just when they pull that shit with like Euron sitting around and everyone dying and the crap with Missandei, it just makes me worry they're going to use these really contrived ways of just getting around it just to have a cool scene for the sake of it, or to tie something up.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, that's one of those things we won't know until like we actually get there, but like, god damn. Euron fucking sucks.
Yeah, Euron is one of the most annoying characters to me on this
really
show.
He's a fucking cartoon character.
I have liked Euron. I did not like Euron when he first showed up. I liked Euron last season, and I like him even more this season. Because Euron is just like a dick.
Well, now
he just feels like stock Game of Thrones villain, where they're like, we'll just make him like the biggest asshole in every way possible. And I'm like, I don't know.
He doesn't have
really
anything that
boring
makes him special.
But that's what is like good, because he's not stock Game of Thrones. He's like not the centerpiece. He's just like.
But he needs something.
He feels very flat to me in almost every way possible.
Like Ramsay felt like a threat. Even fucking what's his little bitch boy? Joffrey felt like a threat.
Well,
I think Euron feels like a threat.
No, Euron feels like a joke. He feels like a threat in like the Reaper, like because the show basically said like, I mean, things like the dragon's dead, like things happen. And it's like, oh yeah, he's a threat, but I never feel it. Like there's no.
It doesn't
tension.
feel earned.
Yeah,
like, It worked better in season 7 when like it was the first time you got to see him like flex his muscles. He kills the sand snakes and stuff, and you're kind of like, oh shit, things are getting serious. And now it just kind of seems like a cheap out whenever he shows up and does something.
Yeah, it's just like, oh yeah, he can do. He's real badass. Like he does stuff, and he's funny. And he like wants to fuck everything. Isn't he funny and charming in a weird, creepy way?
I don't think he's supposed to. I think he's supposed to just be like a real shady guy. And that's the idea with Euron. For me, like the character that I am watching and I'm like, fuck, this guy is Bronn. I fucking hate Braun.
I don't know why you hate him so much.
I don't know why
like
people
him at all, but
I don't know
hate
why
him.
people like Braun.
This episode made me kind of hate Braun, I have to say.
Yeah, because
He
it's just
acted
like
how he
it's at a
would.
point where Braun, like, dude, just take a deal and settle with it. Like he just constantly like, oh no, now I'm gonna get a bigger cat. And I was like, no, just say no, take a deal and settle with it. Like,
But that's his character. He doesn't know when to quit. He's like a
but
gambling
that's
addict.
actually like really annoying because like now he's like, oh, I'm gonna shoot you guys with a crossbow, but I'm not really. I'm just trying to get a better deal. And it's like, so then you're not gonna shoot us with the crossbow. Oh, but I might. It's like,
That was very frustrating for many similar reasons, too. It kind of felt like a forced inclusion of a fan favorite character. Because, I mean, again, he was like the original, like, fans love him, let's make him stick around more kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I never had a huge issue with him in the past because, like, he was always kind of just, like, relegated to the side, you know, just showing up and helping out when needed. But, like, this one, it also kind of just compounds the issue that I felt like there was a lot of shit in this episode that was just
Why is
not
this here?
needed. Yeah.
Braun could definitely be out of the show now, and it would be best for everyone, including Braun. But
Yeah.
I don't hate him. I think that, like, still a good actor playing him. He still has, like, funny lines of dialogue, and this has kind of always been who he was. To me, I'm like, I like Braun. I don't love him. I don't have, like, a huge Braun boner, and I don't hate him. Like, it was like,
Braun,
this,
yeah, he was
this-
just kinda
I
like
just
Braun,
think that
yeah.
the only likable thing ever about Braun was the sense that underneath it all, he might have some sense of like
friendship with these people.
with
Yeah.
these people. And then in that scene, it's like, does he actually not have that? Is he really just like, oh, I'm just trying to get to a castle? It's like, dude,
Don't get me wrong. I get how that scene kind of ruins the character completely, but
thank you.
but
So don't do it. Like
but
that's
I'm like he was never that big of a like. To me, it's just he was never that important to me. Where I'm
Yeah,
like,
I don't care. if
oh,
you
it
ruin
turns
him.
out that he really doesn't like them. He really is just shitty and
right.
sleazy.
It's not that he was
Like,
so important. It's
it's
just that,
fine.
like I'm like,
Yeah, no, I get it. I just
you don't need him here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's coming for this guy. But it's like you could have you don't need him.
literally everything up into that scene. Because like when he was offered the deal, he was like, "Oh, this fucking family. I can't believe they want me to do this." And you're like, "Oh, there's some pathos underneath all of this sleaziness." And then yeah, they do like piss all of it away in that scene. But I'm like, don't matter. None of this matters anymore. Like
Yeah,
Christ.
Kyle's so jaded.
I'm dead
Fuck.
inside.
Yeah, you are.
I know.
Yeah, that's more apt.
But yeah, I think that, I guess maybe Dan's coming at this from a different angle, but for me, something that I've noticed, and Kyle, you brought up that Mary Sue article, and I do think we should talk about that article a little bit more.
Sure.
And we often do this. We're four guys, and then we talk about feminist takes on things. Even though, like, I see myself, I mean, I guess I can't give myself the label, but I would consider myself a feminist. But, like, the Mary Sue did an article that, like, this episode is bad because it shits all over all the female characters.
That's one thing I was actually thinking about this is like Dany fans are probably pretty pissed off this
Oh, yeah,
season about
sure.
how they're treating her character. Like,
Yeah.
she comes off like a total fucking bitch the entire episode.
You know, I
And
gotta.
it's getting harder and harder. Like, the show doesn't... It feels like they don't want you to empathize with her anymore.
I gotta say,
that's the other
I
way.
feel the opposite. I
feel bad
I
for her.
empathize with Danny more now than I have in a long time.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
Danny has lost everything in like a big way. Where I'm like, you know, she lost half her army and like some of the closest people to her in John's campaign,
Yeah.
basically, and not even her own. Granted, I mean, you have to defeat the White Walkers if you want.
Yeah,
the Iron
everyone,
Throne
everyone
anyway.
needed the Iron.
But it's
White
like
Walkers.
Jorah and Missandei are people that loved her. Like, sure, Tyrion and Varys are like her council, but they don't love her. They don't have like any like
Tyrion might. But
Tyrion might, but I mean Varys.
He sure as hell don't.
don't.
We'll get to him.
Yeah. And I mean like the Dothraki love her, and there ain't a
Almost
lot
as
of
much
them
as they
left.
love raping.
Yeah. The Dothraki, yeah,
They do that.
they love it.
But, like, yeah, I feel bad.
Yeah,
for her.
she's been like completely decimated here,
Yeah.
and so like I don't blame her for like the feelings that she has. Like, don't get me wrong, like I like Sansa better, and I support her idea of
Yeah, Sansa's the
northern.
best.
Chill out. I support her idea of northern independence more than anything. I'm true North. We all know that, but Daenerys is a character that like for a while I've just been like, I don't give a shit, and now that they're like making her lose so much. And now that like Jon is like claiming, "Oh, I don't want the throne," but he is behaving the exact opposite of that. I'm like, all of her behavior isn't like, I'm not going to say it's justified to scorch millions of innocent people, but I'm like, I get it. I get why,
I can
why we're
understand
getting
her
her.
headspace.
Yeah.
And I feel like the problem is like I feel like they got to her that headspace like in a kind of schlocky, like stupid ways. Like it was kind of rushed. Like a lot of it felt rushed.
A lot of this in general
And
feels.
I think that's the big, because I'm like, oh, this could be really interesting. Like it's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
obviously, like a lot of season 8 feels rushed, and season 7, honestly.
Yeah.
The other ones has been more and more rushed every season.
Yeah.
After season 4, which was brilliant. But yeah, going off of what Kyle said and what Michael said, like I even saw takes on Reddit where people were like, "Yeah, I've never been a Danny. This episode made me like people I hate and hate people I like. I've never been a Danny fan, but like watching this episode, I felt so much empathy for her, and that's how I felt, and that's how I've been seeing a lot of people feel. Is that like, yeah, Danny isn't getting like big wins. Like I thought Danny would kill the Night King if anyone did for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, the sword fight with Jon seems really telegraphed, but maybe it's something magic with Danny. But yeah, this season hasn't given her super big wins. It hasn't like pushed me to like her, but in doing that, it makes me like her more because
Same.
because like I just empathize with her. It's like, yeah, she lost not just the people close to her, but I
Two
get
dragons.
it. Like because someone pointed out that like, okay, well, she isn't owed loyalty and allegiance for doing the fighting the White Walkers because it would have killed everyone, bare minimum. It's like, okay, fair, I agree with that. But guess who's getting it anyway? Jon.
Yeah.
Like people are giving Jon all of this love and loyalty and respect for things that she did too, and frankly did better than him. Like
Yeah.
she took knocked the Night King off his dragon, not Jon.
She saved Jon's life in that battle.
Yeah, and then everyone's like, he's a madman. He rode a dragon. It's like, you know who also rode a dragon?
She's been doing it for like 4 years now.
Yeah,
And like, and I mean, Daenerys is also a character that is kind of used to people liking her for doing cool shit.
yeah.
That's been like what's been happening to her since like season 3. So it's like, yeah, I get it. Of like, this is the place where she's been trying to get to since episode 1, and she has been told like, oh, the people are they love you. They can't wait for you to come back. It's time the dragons sit on the throne again. And then she's like, oh, that wasn't true at all.
Yeah.
And now I'm cold, and there are wolves outside, and no one likes me.
Well, I mean, I think they did a really good, like, just in the way that scene at the beginning was shot, like, you really felt how alienated she was.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It was comparable to how Viserys felt when, if anyone remembers that, when she was eating the horse heart and they were all like cheering for her at the beginning.
Yeah.
And Viserys like, they love her. Why don't they love me?
Yeah, Jon could have very easily at that fucking party been like, hey, you know, she flies a dragon too. She saved my life. She's our queen. He didn't do anything. He was just like, yeah, Tormund loves me. This is great. So for a long time, I thought maybe he does want the throne. Like, what's he doing?
I think he was just being dumb.
Yeah, he's an
Yeah,
idiot.
he is
Wasn't
kind of, like, again, I was really frustrated with Jon this episode because so there's that scene, right, where she comes in, and I will say there was like probably one too many love scenes in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the beginning. I don't know how I feel about the Jaime. It was fine. It's whatever. There's that scene where Daenerys comes in. She's like, you know, Jorah wasn't loving me, but like, I love you. And then he's like, he pulls away because she's his aunt. And like, he's not cool with that. And she is. And I get that because that's what their upbringings lead them to feel. But then he's just like, then she's just like, okay, I get it. You don't want the throne. I'm begging you. Just don't tell anyone about it. Don't tell anyone about this secret. And he's like, yeah, but I can't lie. Like, I have to tell her. It's like, dude, you're like dumping this woman. You didn't give her any praise for all the shit she did in the battle. She saved your life. And then you're just being like, yeah, but I have to tell. And I get it. That he feels like he has to tell them, but it sucks because in that moment, like, I feel for Dany so much because like she doesn't have anyone that's like hers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She doesn't like Jon has his family. She doesn't have a family. Like, Missandei and Grey Worm, like, Missandei is her best friend, but Missandei plans to leave when this is all over. Jorah's dead. Like,
Yeah. Just Tyrion.
she's really, like, alone in the world. And, like,
And Tyrion's not somebody that she could trust enough to be like, hey, did you know that Jon technically has a claim to the throne too? Like,
yeah, right.
yeah, and apparently she can't trust Varys either.
nope.
Though honestly, you might be able to say you could trust Tyrion because Tyrion was on staying true.
I'm just saying, like, she doesn't trust
Yeah, I
Tyrion.
know.
Like, that's not somebody close to her
Yeah.
that she has.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
don't get me wrong. I'm actually, like, of the opinion, I totally understand Jon not wanting to lie to his family, especially over information that might make him feel more separate from them, that he might want to, like, include them in on this. I don't blame him for that. But,
Blame him a little bit.
I don't blame people for blaming him either. He's fucking chowderhead. But that doesn't mean I don't feel bad for Daenerys.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, damn,
Yeah,
you're in a
it's-
tight spot.
Like, I honestly think that, like, a lot of what might be coming is a consequence of, like, her because, like, that's the thing. Even in the books, like, in Daenerys' story is about how, like, what she wants is a home. Like, she deep down, what she needs is to have a home, to have people who love her and respect her and, like, companionship with those people. But what she's seeking is the Iron Throne. And the throne is absolute power, and absolute power is isolated.
Yeah.
So, like, in that scene, that's what I like. It's like Daenerys is so isolated, and she's looking to Jon. It's like, hey, help me be less isolated. And he's kind of isolating her even further by, like, not giving her, like, this one thing that she really needs.
Yeah.
I don't know. That worked for me too. It made sense for the characters that Jon is kind of like the stupid optimist, you know. He's not thinking things through, whereas like Dany actually like understands the consequence of this happening, and he's just like, no, we'll make it work. It'll be all right.
I love how we all have a Jon impression.
John's the one that we all need to impersonate. He's just the show now.
No, I mean, I guess people just take different things away from that scene because like it's like I understand like she's definitely like has the intelligent like informed choice to be like, don't say anything, this will lead to bad things, but at the same time it's also just kind of like you're being like so like totalitarian about it in a way. It's like not even like the idea or a conversation of this potentially working to some degree or some extent or trying to control the situation. It was like very much like it has to be this way or nothing kind of thing.
Oh, for sure. But, I mean, Jon said that he didn't want the throne. And it's like, well, then, how honest are you being about that? Like, if you don't want the throne, if it doesn't mean anything to you, and that's her whole goal, then, I don't know, maybe like, you're right. It should definitely have felt more like a conversation where he was like, well, think we can be happy. And she's like, I just told you how.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get that. Like, it's like, well, why don't you just calm down? Technically, I got a claim to the throne here. But
Yeah, I think I would like respect Jon more if he just wanted the throne.
yeah,
Because then it'd be like, all right, he's asserting what he wants and being honest about it. But instead, he's just like,
but I mean, Jon is like,
Being wishy-washy.
Jon also is, unless he's just tricking all of us and secretly does want the throne and he's pretending not to get it, is like Jon sort of is like the last embodiment of like the stark, true north pointing moral compass of like, because I mean, Sansa, Arya, Bran, they're not really operating under the old-fashioned golly gee Ned Stark attitude, which, as lovable and endearing as it is, Ned, my favorite, R.I.P., but it's not the smartest decision-making a lot of the time, and that's the shit that Jon's doing right now. He's like, I can't tell a lie, I gotta go tell me sisters, and then it's like, that fucked everything up, dude.
That's what I'm kind of excited about because I mean that was kind of like that kind of outlook was Ned's undoing.
Yeah.
I'm hoping like with him telling Sansa and Sansa playing the little finger and all this and kind of knocking the dominoes for the next couple of episodes. Like it's all basically Jon's fault. So this is going. I'm hoping honestly that this terrible decision of telling his siblings is his undoing, and that's his end. Like I mean that would be. I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
it would fit in with the original Game of Thrones and how it operated.
I definitely think things are not going to go like I was talking. So for Yeah, for years. I thought the White Walkers would get to King's Landing. And my big theory was about Bran burning down King's Landing when the White Walkers got there. The week before the White Walker battle, I was talking to a friend on Reddit, and like the whole week we were like, yeah, it seems like the White Walkers are not going to get past Winterfell. Like we saw it like the week before, just like this does not seem like a setup for part one of a battle. This is a setup for like a final battle. And although I see a lot of problems with that, that the books will probably handle differently, I think that conceptually there's something you can do with the White Walkers are defeated at Winterfell, but now we're going to see the living cause destruction and mayhem on a comparable scale on their own without a zombie army. And that's cool. That's a good idea. And I like that it seems like we're building to that. We're not building... let me keep going. I like that we're building to that. And I think on some level that gives me the sense that Jon, Dany, Tyrion are like kind of fucked. Not necessarily they're all going to die, but they're not gonna
get their goals.
They're not gonna do very well in the next couple weeks. But I think that premise is especially interesting because it's shaping up not to be a good guy versus bad guy conflict.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've been missing for a really long time on this show. Someone I was talking to was like, oh, well, now that the White Walkers have been defeated, they don't have enough forces. Now Cersei is a threat, and she can just kill them. So it's a war of self-defense. They have to, and it's like, well, that's silly. Like, they just come together to beat Cersei now, because that's just what they did with the Night King. Like, the idea is like, oh, well, now Cersei has the firepower to destroy everyone else. So it's like, and now they're an underdog in the fight against Cersei. That would be kind of silly, because we just did that with the Night King. I think what it really is now is like, how is the war against Cersei going to lead to people losing like relationships, losing their lives, civilian casualties, stuff like that.
Yeah, that comes back to like, I think my favorite scene of this episode was the whole conversation between Varys and Tyrion, where it finally harkens back to like, his whole motivation, where it's like, I serve the realm, I want to do what's best for the people, I'm not loyal to like an actual ruler kind of thing. And you actually get to see like in Tyrion's like eyes, like you can tell he kind of believes that too, especially with how Dany's been acting lately. It's like, that's the shit I signed up for. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I want to see play out.
That was an interesting scene. I wish that maybe more had happened before it, or that it had lasted longer. Because it's like, it might have been my favorite scene too, to be honest. It was an interesting discussion, but we were talking about this before we got here. It makes Varys' logic a little questionable overall.
Well, he's done nothing in so fucking long too, so it's just like,
Yeah.
oh hey, he's back.
Yeah. He hasn't done anything, and it just like was such, again, like everything's happened so quickly. Like, oh, so like she seems like is having a really shitty time right now. So this person you've like kind of put all your money on, you're like, oh wait, never mind. Like, I made the wrong choice, I guess. Even though it was just like one off. Like,
yeah,
it happened so quickly. It's like, why are you making this decision? Like,
it definitely like hammered in. It hammered in. It didn't. The thing is, like, I wish they just kept Varys loyal to Daenerys, because I don't know. It could be like someone else that's pushing. I don't know where we'll see where they're going with it next week. Varys is a character that Melisandre straight up told us he's gonna die, so that's just a thing. But the thing about Varys is that, okay, so in the books, Varys has like this Aegon plot where him and Illyrio have raised the kid. But he says he's Aegon Targaryen, the son of Rhaegar with Ilya Martell. Most of us think that that's not the case, but 1 in 1,000 chance could be. But they've raised him. They've like set him up to be the ideal prince, and so that's Varys' plot. Like, oh, I've created, like, handcrafted the perfect prince, and I'm gonna put them on the throne. That's gonna fix everything. That makes a lot more sense compared to show Varys, where it's just like, I'm gonna bring Daenerys for a while, Show Varys did make sense because he was replacing that with Daenerys. Like this Daenerys chick, she's been doing great things over in Essos. I think she's great. We're bringing her over to Westeros. She's gonna be the queen. It's gonna fix everything. Like, oh, okay, so you know her well, and you've like kind of established that this is a ideal queen, and then it turns out like, no, he actually doesn't know the first thing about her, and very quickly into like this war, he's like, oh, actually, no, she's not what I thought she was at all. Well, how about Jon? Maybe Jon. Like you don't know anything about Jon either. Like you barely know.
To play
Jon.
devil's advocate, though, in the show, the fake Aegon scenario doesn't exist.
Right.
And his motivation is still the same of like, I want to do what's best for the realm.
Yeah.
And he didn't know about Jon as an option. So it's like, I understand him like, oh, I'm Team Daenerys because that seems like what's best for the realm. And it's like, I do understand the idea of like, well, now that she's getting a little crazy and she wants to burn millions of innocent people, maybe the guy that I can't imagine doing that is a better choice. I understand the logic.
Right.
It's just a little disappointing. Also, I'm like...
It's disappointing because, like, he
doesn't
doesn't know Jon.
He doesn't really know Jon. Well, I mean, we don't know how well he knows Jon. He's the master of whispers. He could have heard plenty of shit. But for the
He's a
most
war
part,
hero.
Yeah. For the most part...
John McCain.
All right. For the most part, though, I'm like... You've also spent enough time with Daenerys as a person to know that, like, sorry to say, but even if she takes King's Landing by... Dragonfire and slaughter, that it's like, do you really think that that's going to be like, she's still going to be a better ruler than Cersei? And it's like, that should be your first and foremost plan is like, get rid of Cersei and then, I don't know, just like, whatever Varys is doing, that's up to him. But I don't know.
That seems, I mean, I feel like he's written to be more forward thinking than that. And I mean, it just sort of seems like he never saw like the potential of Jon being a ruler. And again, a lot of that came back to the beginning part of the episode, showing how he has like the support of all the Northmen and everyone else, and how like people are just drawn to him. And the conversation about like forging relationships and actually like, you know, having like bringing the Seven Kingdoms together to actually follow the leader instead of having like, you know, a figurehead sitting on the Iron Throne while everyone kind of just like fucks off and doesn't listen to her. You know, it made sense in that context.
It makes it, like, don't get me wrong, I think that Jon might be a better choice. Like, he's certainly an easier one if you had to run a campaign for, in that more people would rally behind him. But, I don't know. It was an interesting scene in conversations. I get how it makes him look dumber than Book Varys, but it's also a different world that this Varys is living in, so...
Yeah, I mean, it makes him...
He just comes to that conclusion pretty quick.
It makes him just seem less consistent.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, yeah, I get Jon is the easier choice. He seems like the more level-headed. And we got to get back to that Mary Sue article a little bit, because there is that gendered aspect. Like, a lot of people don't like Jon is presented as, like, the level-headed, better choice.
Yeah,
and
but
Daenerys is, like, she's emotional. Like, it's kind of a stereotype.
But I mean, they also seem to miss the point of like Varys isn't saying Jon is a better leader because he has a wiener.
Right.
He's saying the world is sexist and more people would root for him because he's a man. It's not like part of his thinking of why he should be in charge.
Yeah, and like a lot of people would say that, like, oh well, you can say that to people say that today but it's like people say that today oftentimes, and it's not entirely untrue, but mostly people say that today just to justify things. Like, today we're at a place where it can happen. Like, you can have a woman president, you can have, like, a woman senator, whatever.
Look at how many presidents we've had that are women.
Good point. But, I mean, it's happened all over the world. And we get senators, but, like, it's like, that's a thing. Like, there isn't often been times where the Seven Kingdoms have been... Actually, there's never been a time where the Seven Kingdoms have been ruled by a woman, like a queen. So... It's a different time. I get where Varys is coming from. I don't think it's sexist at all. But, of course, I am a man. So, ladies, sound off in the comments.
That way we'll have some.
Comments. But, yeah, I think that there's definitely, like, a sense where, even though I can see Jon as a better person to run a campaign for, and I've always been someone that prefers Daenerys to Jon, this episode, like, really just made me, like, even... as Daenerys is getting worse than I ever thought I never thought they'd go down this road. I thought it'd just be White Walkers to the end of the story. I never thought they would do this post White Walker conquest plot.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. Like, even the fact that they're pushing like Daenerys sort of like into this questionable territory of like, will she kind of like go crazy and murder all these innocent people is very, very surprising to me. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
it's
like. It's
interesting,
interesting. It's building tension. Like that's the one thing I liked about this episode. Like the episode was fine, but I the reason I really like it is just because it's setting up a lot of interesting things, and I'm really hoping that they end interestingly. Is my hope.
Yeah, like I think that
There's a lot I'm excited about going forward because of this episode.
yeah, and I think this episode like actually gets me back to some of the primordial is probably overly strong word. Some of the original things that drew me to Daenerys was sort of like the sense of like the impossible dream aspect.
Oh yeah.
Like Daenerys has this impossible dream to take the Iron Throne and rule Westeros and be loved and be at home and have companionship and have it all, and it's like it can't happen. All right, I don't think it can happen.
It feels like it would be a betrayal for it to happen in this world.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And it's like that's kind of what I love about her is that she's like she dreams the impossible dream, and like that's kind of why we like tragic characters.
Yeah. It's kind of like why we liked this show in the first place.
It's like Ned Stark. He also dreamt the impossible dreams. Like
Just a great man.
I can go to King's Landing and help Robert fix the realm and figure out the mystery of Jon Arryn's death and they're bastards of incest. I can save
expel them without murdering them.
I can expel them without murdering them. And Robert's about to die. I can do this. I can fix this. It'll be fine. Like that's why you like Ned is that he believes that he can do the things that can't be done, and then he fails realistically. But he tried his best. And Daenerys probably can do some slightly less moral things than Ned Stark next week, but
Hey, there's only one Ned Stark, man.
I almost wonder if like I almost see like every character in this episode like setting up their own demise. Like I could see like Sansa like going the way of Littlefinger, like making these crazy plans and then them blowing up in her face. Like I can see Jon like being the Ned Stark route, trying to be too earnest and then that blowing up in his face. Like Daenerys trying to have it all. Like I almost want that to be the ending where everyone's best laid plans just like go south at the end.
So then what happens to Arya?
Arya
She tried to sneak up on somebody sneakier than her.
Yeah.
She slips on the
Jack,
battlefield.
Cersei hires Jack and Hagar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that one guy still alive?
Yeah.
And he like whenever she left him, he kind of made it seem like he was going to come back.
Well, me and Yaz were actually joking about a scenario where they would fight.
Yeah.
And they would keep pulling out
Yeah, like
faces.
they do a fight. Like Cersei hires Jack and Hagar, so they fight, and then Jaqen wins and he kills Arya. But then he takes off his mask and he was Arya, and Jaqen was, he was actually Arya, and Arya was actually Jaqen.
Yeah, and then he's walking away, but then he pulls off the Arya face and it's Jaqen again, and there was no reason for him to do that other switch.
He takes it off and it's Ned Stark.
Yeah, and then the show would end. That was,
No, but something else.
for the record, we do not want that to happen. That would be the dumbest thing in the world. If like next episode or like except the Ned Stark coming back in the show ending would be great.
That'd be kind of cool.
But no, if like
What if a whole show was a play and everyone was just faceless men acting it out?
So and I was talking to someone else who said that like, oh well, I think that something that some people pointed out pretty immediately after the episode, and I totally get this, and this is one reason why like it's hard to defend the show because a lot of the show has created a lot of like logically impossible things or like show breaking things. One of them is kind of Bran, but Bran kind of gets an exemption because like, well, he's not participating. You know what I mean? Like yeah,
he's
Bran
not doing much.
Bran could like. There are a lot of cases where like, shouldn't Bran be able to know this? But like, you're like, all right, he has his reasons.
Yeah.
But Arya is one of them. So a lot of people were like, well, this is stupid because why doesn't Daenerys just send Arya to kill Cersei and then fix this whole thing? And I'm like, because that's not the story, and if it were, then this would be over in a second.
Yeah.
Like someone told me like, oh, I think that Plan A is going to be sending Arya in to take out Cersei, but that's not going to work. So then the dragons are going to come into play, and I'm like, there's no way Arya fails, so it's not going to happen.
who all
Yeah,
knows?
who's an obstacle for her? Maybe the mountain, but I mean, if Zombie Mountain sleeps, she can get him then.
I mean, I'm sure she could throw a knife at Cersei from far away and then outrun the mountain.
Yeah, he does look slow and dead.
Like there's just no. I don't even.
That would be so stupid and funny. And then you go, you're back.
How many people know that Arya is it like Sansa knows that she can do that?
No one really.
Does
knows.
anyone else know?
No one except Bran really knows.
Oh, Bran,
Sansa
okay.
hasn't
she
really
doesn't
seen.
know,
She
okay.
knows vaguely, but she doesn't really know.
She just knows that her sister showed her a severed face.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay.
She doesn't. Only Bran really knows.
Yeah.
Right.
Or she found it under her sister's bed and was just like, Arya got weird overseas. Collects weird shit.
Yeah.
Let's listen to all those true crime podcasts.
Shut up, Michael.
Yeah. But no, that's something where like, yeah, the Stark sisters. Like, I think that I like where Sansa is headed. I like because like
I love
what's cool is
Sansa's
like,
head.
oh, of course you do.
I do.
What was
it's so
that?
awesome.
It sounded creepy.
What's cool is I actually like. I don't. I like. I actually don't agree with the choices Sansa makes in this episode.
Me
No,
neither.
she's
I
real
think
dumb,
that
but it's
I think
fine.
that Sansa telling Tyrion about Jon, despite Jon not wanting her to, that was wrong. And I think she's fomenting discord that could be problematic. So I don't agree with what Sansa did, but it's true to Sansa, and I enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
And Arya is a little bit more level-headed towards Daenerys, where she's like, yeah, we did need her, but we don't trust her. And I'm like, I get it. I think you should. Maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. Daenerys is being a little weird, but
Yeah, but I mean, it is kind of shitty to be like, I get it. We needed her, but she's an outsider and we don't trust her, so like, fuck her. And then it's like, oh, well, you're not going to make any allies if you don't trust somebody or let them in. And she's like, I don't need any allies. You needed her help yesterday. Literally just yesterday.
that's true. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
come on, man.
Yeah. Not the smartest logic.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, she's also not like trying to lead her house or anything.
Yeah.
right. But then to be fair, like Sansa also laid down some proper logic with like, hey, I think we should wait. The troops are tired.
Oh yeah.
Also, your troops. And I'm like, that's something where like
that was solid reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
That's
and
what I
there's
would
like, well, they're
suggest.
getting stronger, and it's like,
Yeah, but you're getting weaker.
They're never gonna get a dragon.
Yeah.
Like, I know how strong they get. It's not gonna be a dragon.
Yeah.
But I actually maybe there's some logic to it. Maybe she's worried that they're gonna sneak up on the dragon or something like that. I don't know.
Clearly. So
Um,
I'm excited for the future, but with some hesitation, I guess, is where this new episode has left
fair
me.
thing.
Like after the episode before left a really bad taste in my mouth, and this kind of like cleansed my palate a little bit, and I'm
Good palate cleanser.
yeah, I'm a little bit more optimistic. I'm excited to see where Sansa's plans go, because that was the one thing I think I really missed from the original Game of Thrones. My favorite thing, like you guys always think it's weird that I liked Littlefinger,
It is,
but he was like
Littlefinger.
my favorite. And then like toward the last, like his last couple seasons, he kind of wasn't as interesting. Like once they passed the books, he like most things kind of got uninteresting. And I feel like now Sansa's kind of picking up his mantle, and it's getting interesting for this last couple of episodes. I'm fingers crossed.
No, it's gonna be good. King Bran is coming. I'm telling you
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
it's the thing. It's the truth.
I just hope they use their time better for the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. This should not have been as long as it was. Or at least they should have focused on different shit.
Yeah. This is the thing. They drug out certain things and then like didn't focus on things they should.
I
That's what it
hated
seemed
most
like.
of the party at the start.
I think the party
that
drug on
scene
a
could
little
have
bit
been
much.
half the
Yeah.
fucking time. To the
Yeah.
point where like I audibly like said to like Ariane, like, why is this still going on?
Yeah.
Like it just turned into like stupid ass like forced character moment after character moment.
Yeah, at the beginning
Yeah.
I was like, all right, the party is good, and then it's like, okay, this is stop. Like they have the Sansa and the Hound scene, which Mary Sue article also complains about, and that's maybe the most valid
But
complaint.
didn't you love the Tormund comedy hour?
Yeah, and then like the Sansa Hound scenes, like I thought you forgot that these characters interacted, and now 4 episodes into them being in the same building, you finally like give them a scene together. It's like you should have done it sooner or not at all. Tormund stuff, yeah, it's like all right, this is all much, and then like John get drunk, dude, and it's like okay, we
Yeah, it was a little. That was maybe one of my bigger complaints. Like that scene was too.
Don't you love Game of Thrones channeling Joss Whedon though?
Yeah,
Great.
That makes me sad.
yeah.
Yeah, where they all tried to lift Tormund's hammer. Like,
Okay, Ghost isn't dead.
yeah,
Might as well have been.
he deserves better.
Well, he
All
will. He'll get to go on winter adventures with Tormund.
John didn't deserve him.
No.
Every other Stark has been better to their direwolf than John.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. Fuck him.
Yeah.
It ain't right.
No, he should.
He didn't say goodbye to him. He just left him there.
They did Ghost
He's got an
dirty. Like,
ear off and everything. Look at this mess.
pet the wolf.
Yeah, just pet him.
Just pat him on the head at
You
least.
didn't pet him. His wolf's been in 2 episodes, 3 episodes.
Tell him
Not pet
you'll miss
once.
him, that he was good, that he...
There's no Fox and the Hound moment. Nothing.
Wolf just looks at him going away. He doesn't know English. He doesn't know where John's going.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's fucked up, man.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
Yeah. I think that.
I think that's yeah.
Yeah, I think that we're about there. Any last things?
Is there anything that we haven't talked about in the episode that bothered us or that we liked?
I like that. I mean, this is obviously a me thing. I like every episode this season has had a scene between Tyrion and Bran. I think that's very deliberate. I think that's going somewhere. And they're all really great because I was talking to someone and they actually pointed this out. I didn't even think about it this way, but it's great because Tyrion is pretty much the only person that responds to Bran with curiosity instead of fear. He's the only person that kind of treats him like he's a person even though he's not.
Yeah.
And I think those scenes are actually really good, and I'm excited to see where that's headed. For a long time, I've had a theory that the last scene of the story is between Tyrion and Bran, so maybe that'll be it. Who knows? And the other thing I would like to point out is, this is one. I don't want to run too long, but I will say there's been a lot of Missandei should not have died because they should not have had the only female person of color killed off for another for a white woman's story.
But that's what that character was.
Yeah,
the
and
entire time.
that's a statement I strongly disagree with because Missandei. It's not that Missandei's death was for Daenerys' story; it's that her life was for Daenerys' story. And so the idea that if she had gotten a happy ending with Grey Worm, then that would have affirmed her and no, that would have actually just affirms Daenerys. If she gets a happy ending, then that means that Daenerys bringing all of these brown people to Westeros to fight for a country, to fight for a political restructuring of a country that they don't feel that they belong in, is totally fine. And so you had to kill off one of the two because Daenerys brought thousands, and about half of them died. So if you leave alive the only 2 that we know, that's kind of an unfair representation of what happened to the people she actually brought. So you have to kill off one of them because that's accurate. The people who Daenerys brings do not get a happy ending. They get a very bittersweet ending. And I think that there needs to be a bittersweet ending between Missandei and Grey Worm. And unfortunately and sadly, I do think that's what had to happen. So that's my rant on that. But again, I'm not black, so obviously black people out there might feel differently, and I'd love to hear that too in the comments.
You really want some comments?
I want some comments. Comment.
We did get one comment on one of the videos, but
I'm looking for triple. Let's triple our comments.
You talk to him. I don't want to talk to anybody. You respond to all the comments.
Yeah.
All right.
Wolf Punch.